You can't just buy one property for $1.2 million and say, awesome, I put my 300 grand down. I'm going to be worth over $20 million in 20 years. I bought my future lottery ticket already. I'm set. Doesn't quite work that way. And the reason is that over time, if you're looking at return on equity, which I encourage you to do that, there's a difference between return on equity and return on investment. Return on equity manages your return each year on your previous years or your starting equity at that year, which changes every year as the value of your property and the amount of equity in the property as you pay the loan down changes, versus ROI, where ROI measures your return based on your original investment. ROI becomes meaningless after the first year of owning a property. On any buy and hold investment, ROI is not a great metric. A lot of people like to look at internal rate of return, or IRR, instead. But internal rate of return has some problems as well, because it has to assume a terminal value after X holding period. And that kind of limits you in the way that you might look at this. So instead, I encourage you to look at return on equity each year as your portfolio grows. And let me explain why this becomes problematic buying one property and holding it forever. So if you buy a $1.2 million property with 300 grand down, then in year one, we did that earlier example, you made 20% return on your equity. In year two, it's worth 1.26. You have $360,000 in equity because you made $60,000 in year one, and 5% of 1.26 is $63,000. $63,000 divided by $360,000 means your return on equity in year two is only 17.5%. So you can see where this goes. As the denominator, or your equity in each year, continues to rise, it rises faster than the equity that the return on the appreciation goes up each year. So what the net effect is that your ROE gets diluted over time. So if you just buy this property at the end of the 20th year, your ROE has gone from 20% leveraged down to 7% leveraged appreciation. And your total ROE over the life of this investment has gone from 20 to 11. So at the beginning, sure, we can get you up into the mid-20s on your combined rate of return because you've got cash flow, amortization, and everything else. By the time you're here, though, you can't do that anymore. So you're not going to be able to hit those huge numbers that I was showing earlier on the time value of money chart. So what do we need to do? We need to track our equity over time and re-leverage. So here's a chart showing you how that might work if you're looking at doing that after every fourth year, or exchanging in the fifth year. So same property here for the first 4 years, you get deleveraged. And then after 4 years, what if you exchange and you take $558,000 when you sell this property, and you exchange into a $2.2 million property with 25% down? You re-leverage your return back up to 20% when you do that. And if you repeat that process every 4 years, you can average an ROE from leveraged appreciation of 17% or so across the life of your portfolio. Now, by the time you're here in the 20th year, you've got $17 million property and $6.7 million worth of equity. Now, that's way less than I showed in the time value of money chart, because this is a super simplified example that doesn't take into consideration any principal pay down, tax benefits, reinvesting the cash, or anything like that. So that's why it's a lower number here. But the idea, the concept is the important part here.